All right, next up, Sean Payton gets the Broncos back to the playoffs his first season as head coach in 2023. Love it or shove it. Okay, guess you're shoving it.
I'm going to shove that. Then I'm going to flush that. And then I'm going to wipe that.
You should wipe first, actually. I would be wiping before you flush it. But nonetheless. Oh, yes. Back again. Those Podres podcast. Major J, Sundance Kid. Here yet again to lament Boston sports with so much more. Sundance, a lot of news this week. Great packed show. We're recording this on Thursday. It was the NBA trade deadline this afternoon. Celtics have themselves a new center. We're going to talk about that. It's also Super Bowl week. Big week. Big in the betting fields out there as well. So we're going to talk Super Bowl, KC, Philadelphia, and also Valentine's Day, right around the corner. So we're going to do a little something for that as well. Make sure you stick around for it. So, Nance, how you feeling? What you sipping on?
Feeling really good with this Celtics trade deadline, so I'm not going to spoil anything, but I will say that's got me in a better mood. I really like the way that shaped out.
The Celtics
I don't know why. It could just be the mild New England weather, but I'm not so down on the Sox as I had been. Kind of could be a major league Cleveland Indians type season for them. We have no idea who half the team roster is.
This guy here is dead.
Cross him off then.
Where these guys came from, but could be an interesting season. So Bruins are doing fine, even though they're on a little bit of a break at the moment from playing. And the Patriots have buttoned up some issues. So looking forward to a Super Bowl in which I could care less which team wins.
Sorry.
This is probably the worst Super Bowl option that was out there. There's not a lot of interest in this game for me. And so I've got a fantastic guava mango weirder presented by Five Churches.
Fantastic. All right. So I went with a little something different tonight. I got away from Five Churches. Not that there's anything wrong with Five Churches. Sometimes you just have to expand the palate, right? This time I am going with the Greater Good Brewery. Well, it's called Pulpy Dreams. It's essentially an imperial
correct
hard seltzer. Say that 5 times fast. You probably can. Cranberry lime.
Ooh.
8%. I'll tell you. At first, it's a little curious.
Yeah.
Once you start getting into it, it's a lot better.
Interesting.
It could be the 8%. But either way, it's good stuff. So we'll make sure we tag Five Churches and Greater Good in our social posts. All right, so let's run into a little bit of rundown here, or we alluded to it as well a moment ago as far as all the comings and goings here. So right off the bat, first things first, just want to, in the wrestling world, want to acknowledge that we lost another personality over the last week, Lanny Poffo, who was...
Oh, no.
If you go back to the 80s and 90s,
Weeping Lanny Poffo. Oh.
Weeping Lanny Poffo, also known as the Genius, as he was later known when they changed his gimmick a bit, did pass away this past week. Also, as well, the brother of Randy Macho Man Savage. So Lanny Poffo did pass away this past week. He was again not a top of the card personality back in the late 80s, early 90s or so, but was known for kind of his shtick early on as well, was the poetry that he'd read at the beginning of the match. And before he became the Genius, he actually read off I don't know if you remember this, off of a Frisbee. And he chucked the Frisbee into the stands. And that
absolutely.
If you're into a house show, what was known as what we know now as house shows, and you caught one of those Frisbees, I mean, you made the weekend right there. So R.I.P. Lanny Poffo. All right, let's get into the Celtics first, because obviously we got a big day today with the trade deadline. All-Star game is around the corner, all kinds of stuff going on there. So seeds right now, look at the standings right off the bat. We got the C's 39-16, still first in the East, as you'd expect. A game and a half up on Milwaukee, who is starting to surge. Sixers are 4 back, Cavs 5 back. Nets have fallen way off the last couple weeks, and we'll get into that a bit as well. 6.5 back, and clearly are just dismantling and moving on. So things still looking decent for the C's. Up and down the last couple weeks. They have 1-4-5. Things seem to be coming around a little bit. They did have, before all these trades, did have a nice win at home against the Nets last week, where they set maybe not a record, but their first most points in the first half since 1990 was 79 points. They beat Brooklyn 139-96 that night. That was big. Big win against Philadelphia last night, Wednesday night as well, where they had 4 guys out. Unfortunately, they paid the price for that because Jaylen Brown suffered a facial fracture at the elbow of Jason Tatum. It looks like Brown may miss some time. He may have to come back wearing a mask. Who knows? But hopefully that's a short-term loss. But still a good win against Philadelphia. Trade deadline. I mean, let's get into it. We've speculated what would happen with this team. We've talked about it in the past, what they probably needed, what they needed to do. They went out and made one trade. I think it was a decent trade, and you can chime in here too, getting Mike Muscala from Oklahoma City for Justin Jackson and a couple second rounders, which is essentially nothing. I believe Muscala is signed through next year, has an option through next year. Basically, it looks like he's a guy who's going to take some minutes, relieve Horford a bit, and give Horford some relief in terms of, and what we talked about this before, him not having to push those high minutes right to the end of the season into the playoffs, giving him a break because Muscala is more of a shooting center guy who still helps stretch the floor. So I think that to complement Horford with Time Lord really gives them a decent center rotation. So, what do you think about that trade?
I love it. I think it's perfect fit, and Brad Stevens did a really nice job here reading the tea leaves, understanding the chemistry, within this Celtics team. Brogdon's come on strong lately. Derek White has come on strong lately. Blake Griffin, he was, knocked down 3 3-pointers within the first 5 minutes of last night's game against the Sixers.
Yeah.
I like this trade. It's one of those ones where you give up nothing and you get back a decent backup big. And listen, we didn't get that score that maybe we were hoping for. It looked like a lot of that activity happened out west with the Lakers and the Suns, and the Magic got involved a little bit. You see, D'Angelo Russell's back in LA now. I mean, it would have been nice to get like a solid, guard that scores 15, 16 a night.
Right.
Realistically,
right.
There really isn't much room for that on this team when it's completely healthy.
Yeah.
And we're doing this without Marcus Smart right now. And he's going to have to be that guy. Him and Brogdon are going to have to fill those gaps. So I got no complaints. I love this. I hope we're not regretting it in a month, where you say, geez, all these other teams did X, Y, and Z, and we went out and got Mike Muscala.
But
I don't think so. I like this move. I think it's a good move. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like you said, I do think it would have been nice. And I think Scal tonight was actually talking about this on the trade deadline special on NBC Sports. It would have been nice to get, that third scorer guy who you just definitively knew was going to go out and complement Tatum and Jaylen. But they didn't. It would have been nice, but they didn't need that. No. I think this is what they needed. They needed to shore up that center rotation, keep the minutes off of Horford, etc. And the guy who can shoot, I think Muscala, they said he's for 39% from 3 from the last 4 years.
Yep.
I'll take that. Again, the cost of a couple of second rounders, which essentially aren't anything in the NBA anymore. Second rounders can be thrown around. I think today they said upwards of 50 second rounders.
Yeah, it's not
have
the
been
NFL.
Thrown around.
It's not the NFL. It's not the MLB. Yeah.
Those are more about cost control and having cost-friendly contracts on the end of your bench, honestly, for ownership more than anything else. But no, I agree. I think we'll look back and say, the thing is, even if the trade doesn't, quote, work out, at what cost? Not worried about it. I think it was a smart move. They did enough in the offseason and building up into this year that they didn't put themselves in. Brad Stevens put himself in a position to not have to go out and get a ton at the trade deadline, barring injuries and everything else. And we know Smart will be back, hopefully sooner than later, off that ankle. A couple of trades that did go down between the last couple of days. Old friend Kyrie Irving asked for a trade. Shockingly, he broke his 3 months of silence or of good behavior to go ahead and, as we've talked about, has to do something. Oh. He has to do something every year to put his stamp on the league and in the headlines. Asks for a trade. Yeah. Gets dealt to Dallas for a couple of players and 3 picks. Right. Proceeds to then whine about how the fact he was not celebrated in New York or in Brooklyn rather, and that the emphasis was always on his, all the negatives. No one. He wants to go somewhere where he's celebrated. The guy just doesn't get it. He's never going to get it. We've been up and down this road before with this guy. It's almost to the point where you assume he does this on purpose to keep the spotlight on him, and he knows how ridiculous he is, and he doesn't care. But he's going to Dallas, pairing up with Luka Doncic, which is a hell of a duo over there. Mm-hmm. The funny part about this, I'm sure you heard about it, everyone else did, that when Kyrie went and asked for the trade, the Nets owner, Joe Tsai, basically told the front office, you know what, trade him, that's fine, but trade him to anyone but the Lakers, because the Lakers were at the top of Kyrie's wish list. I don't remember the last time team ownership got intervened in a trade and said, just simply out of spite, oh, he wants to go there, trade him anywhere but there because I'm over it. Like how over it does the owner have to be to purposely go and say, you move anywhere you want. I don't care if it's even a better deal or not. And that was the headlines that Dallas gave them. They liked Dallas's offer better. Mm-hmm. But reality was, nope, we're not sending him to LA because he wants to go to LA, and I'm over it, and I'm getting the last word, and I think it's fantastic. I laughed out loud when I saw that. KD, Kevin Durant, this morning, you wake up, also gets traded, and there was the rumors were that he was also going to get moved after what was going to happen with KD, rather after Kyrie gets moved. Who knows what happened behind closed doors, but Kevin Durant also dealt with TJ Warren to Phoenix. Michael Bridges, Cam Johnson, old friend Jay Crowder. 4 first-rounders. 4. Spread out over the next 6 years. 4. Crazy. How many?
4.
4. Okay, 4. So 4. That's a lot of first-rounders. So Durant instantly makes Phoenix contender again. I think they were middling over in the West, but right now you can remember with Devin Booker and a decent infrastructure over there, and now they're looking like maybe not favorites, but they're going to contend. And the Nets at this point essentially broke up their big 3. Harden had already left. They got in Ben Simmons, who's been, I guess, a disappointment, you'd say, for lack of a better term. I'm sure there's plenty out there. Went ahead and moved Kyrie. Went ahead and moved KD today, and now they're going to rebuild, and no one's sad about it, honestly. So those are big names.
1 second there.
Go ahead.
No one's sad about it, except for maybe Nets fans who basically saw their team.
Do those exist there, really? Are there a lot of Nets fans out there?
Their team.
I don't know if they're real ones.
Flat out dismantled within what was 72 hours? Within 3 days. I mean, Kyrie gone, Durant gone. Now listen, that's from a star power perspective. From a pure NBA basketball talent perspective, you're going to be surprised, Nets fans. And again, I know that it doesn't bleed, they don't bleed green like Celtics fans do, and they're not, like Lakers fans or even Knicks fans. Nets fans are certainly fair weather. They come, they go. This team is it's going to be good. It's not going to be great. It's not going to push the Celtics in the Eastern Conference this season. But for me, I think the Nets are a good young team with everything that they brought back Who's the dude that's
Right.
scoring like 40 points a game the last 3 or 4
Cam
nights?
Thomas.
Cam Thomas.
Yeah. So they just got Cam Johnson from Phoenix.
Cam
Right. So
Johnson.
they're going to have Cam and Cam connection.
Michael Bridges.
Yeah.
Did he
the
come?
Cam connection.
Did they get Michael Bridges?
Yes.
And they got Michael.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if you're the GM and you're the owner, you're just kind of like headache 1, Kyrie gone. Headache 1A, Kevin Durant gone. And you basically rebuilt. Headache 1B in Simmons, well, that's a different story. I mean, good luck trying to move him. But my goodness, I it's really shrewd moves by the Nets, and it's not going to push the Celtics off the ledge this season. But watch out, the next 4 years or so, the Nets could be back pretty quickly. So interesting moves all the way around.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's good young nucleus that they have at least. And obviously there's going to be cost control there now as well. So on top of all the young talent they brought in, does that now free up? And I haven't looked at the cap numbers for them, but what does that free up cash, et cetera, to then try to bring in someone else and rebuild some of that star power too. So, but like you said, Nets could still be good, but not going to be contending presumably with the Celtics this year, which is what we care about the most. Beyond that, in terms of trades that affected the East, you had the Bucks. So Jay Crowder went originally in that trade to the Nets, ended up getting shipped out in a 3-team deal back to Milwaukee. So Jay Crowder's now with Milwaukee. Nice get for them there. Sixers trade Matisse Thybulle to the Blazers. They did bring in guard McDaniel, I believe, as well. I'm trying to find that. I don't know how significant that really is. He's bringing in Muscala. Not a ton of trades that I thought beyond that really affected the top of the table in the East.
No.
I actually expected a little bit more.
Yep.
I think a lot of the good stuff actually happened in the West, I thought, which we don't need to get into so much because we don't care about that until the Celtics get to the finals anyway, honestly.
Yeah, and quickly, just before we leave
if they get to the finals, obviously.
Closing out the Celtics note, you're thrilled as a Celtics fan that they did not move Brown.
Grant Williams was somebody.
Grant Williams,
potentially with his free agency status, I really expected him to potentially be a part of if they had made a trade that we talked about for another scorer.
Yep.
I mean, he would have been a key part of that.
I thought it would have been Grant Williams and Peyton Pritchard being packaged with some picks in the future for XYZ. I love the fact you got to be happy if you're a Celtics fan that you still have Jaylen Brown, you still have Pritchard, he's buried at the bottom of the bench, but Peyton Pritchard is a legit NBA player, and if that guy is your 10th or 11th, you're doing pretty good. And Grant Williams is so underrated. That guy's going to get paid this offseason by somebody. I like what Brad Stevens did. I really do, and I like what he didn't.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
As well. So one of the note too, All-Star game is February 19th in Utah. So that might be right before we come back around the next show. So All-Stars from the Celtics there. Tatum did make it as a starter. Jalen did get in as a reserve as well. So you got 2 seeds representing the team in the East. Upcoming games, let's see, we're recording this on Thursday night the 9th. You got Charlotte tomorrow night at home. Friday, they got Sunday, you got Memphis at home. Then they take on Milwaukee on the road, and then Detroit at home, and the big All-Star break, etc. So, interesting couple weeks coming up, then a break. Hopefully they can carry some momentum there. Bruins. All right, let's get into the Bruins. Look, we can't skip them because they are still on a record pace. Still first in the East in the NHL. They fall off pace a bit from where they were, but they're still first, 83 points. Only 7 clear, because the problem is you've got Carolina and New Jersey both surging behind them in the East. The Bruins are now 7-2-1 in their last 10. Carolina is 9-0-1 in the last 10.
Yeah.
Jersey, who just lost Jack Hughes, potentially, who's week to week now, who's turning into an absolute star for them, 8-1-1 over the last week. So these have actually lost ground in the standings while still being on a record pace. They're still trending 133 points, which would be 1 clear of the Canadiens' record of 132 back in the late 70s. We'll see. It's been quiet. We're coming off the All-Star break over the past week, where they did close out the first half with a 5-2 win at Toronto, which was nice. Like I said, it's been quiet since then, so it's not that much to talk about. There's a trade deadline in the NHL coming up on March 3rd, so we could probably talk a little bit more about that next show as the speculation is going to start building as far as what this team's going to do. There's been some talk about going after another defenseman like they did last year. Jacob Chichurin from Arizona is somebody that's been on the radar. They talked about. There's also been talk about trying to get another center to take some pressure off of Bergeron and Krejci, especially not knowing what those guys are doing after the season, etc. So probably touch on that a little bit more next show. But one note, David Pastrnak still waiting for an extension. Has not happened yet. Speculation is that could still be forthcoming. According to an article on The Athletic, I don't know if you read it yet, but I did see that they're speculating that he could end up being the highest paid player in the league with this extension. So Here's the thing, and I'll just real quick note: if that were to happen, I actually have a hard time. Not saying they shouldn't, but I have a hard time seeing ownership and management signing Pastrnak to a deal that large, just because if you go back to the history of this team, they tend to be
they don't hand out
a little
deals.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see where this lands. I mean, if you take a little bit less money to stay, what etc. What this team does in general at the deadline, because it seems like by all accounts going into the season, they're putting it together to make one last run this year, knowing that Bergeron's probably not coming back. And Krejci came back, and who knows, maybe just for a season. So if that's the case, are you going for it, putting all your chips in, going get a big defenseman, someone else, or are you playing a little more with some guys? You get DeBrusque coming back, hopefully from his injuries in a couple weeks. I don't know, but again, we'll cover that in a couple weeks once we get closer to the deadline. Really, just upcoming games that they're coming off the break. Bruins actually open up the second half at home against Washington this Saturday afternoon. Go on the road at Dallas in Nashville next week. Come back home against the Islanders in Ottawa. So we'll see if they can keep up that record-setting pace. I am also afraid that if they do, that will be a bad sign for their playoff chances, but who knows? One other hockey note, have to put it out there, 2023 Beanpot for all you hockey heads out there. It's Beanpot season. Last Monday, Harvard beat BC 4-3. Harvard's in the Beanpot final for the first time in 6 years. Northeastern beats BU 3-1. You've got Monday afternoon, the 13th, is the Beanpot final, Harvard and Northeastern. Good times. All right, we're going to transition now. Let's talk all Sox. Not a lot to talk about, Sundance, but last Friday, the 3rd, was Truck Day. That's always a big thing.
Sure.
People show up and like to watch the trucks packed up and take off to Fort Myers. Always a good time. Just letting you know, we're getting there. Pitchers and catchers report on the 15th. We do have little note there. Red Sox preview will be coming up in the next couple episodes. We're going to go and touch on that and really get into maybe like a position by position overview, preview of what this team looks like as we head into spring training and into the regular season in April. Another note there, and I'd like to get your take on this. Liverpool, up for sale by FSG. So there's been a lot of talk about that they're up for sale. Some bids should be starting to come in this month, etc. I thought I saw something about a bid that Warner was happy with, that they thought John Henry was going to nix. So I don't know if there's a little headbutting internally there or what that's about. But we should be seeing something about Liverpool getting sold, hopefully in the next month or two. I'm curious what you think that means or could be a precursor to.
Well, they've already come out and said point blank they're not looking to sell the Red Sox anytime soon. I think they did that at FanFest in Springfield a week ago, and or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. So I don't think it has much impact there. I don't think it has much impact, period. I think these are guys playing with their money, just to be very honest. And they're not looking to pool money to spend more on Red Sox players. Let's just put it that way. So it really doesn't mean anything to me. I could care less. It's a bit more frustrating that they own, the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is stateside, which I think might take away a little bit more of their attention, because again, hockey is on the upswing. It has been for the last 5 years. Outside of that, it just doesn't mean much to me. Talking about the team itself, Chaim Bloom continues to rebuild this bullpen, and Matt Barnes, goodbye, and we have Richard Blyer now joins the team. This is, it's kind of interesting. It's almost like Chaim came into this offseason and said, I am going to get rid of every single player that was here or had anything to do with this team the last 4 years outside of Devers and Brazier. You know what I mean? This is just, Sale. I mean, this is just a really strange time. And you're seeing and reading articles about Justin Turner is going to come in and fill a leadership void and things like that. And it's just, it's like, since when was leadership,
for what, a year?
For a year?
Like
maybe 2. So it's just a really strange offseason. That said, I'm also reading really high projections on Yoshida, offensively at least. A couple of the big sports websites that do those projections, like Fangraphs, some of them have him popping 20 home runs, hitting 290, scoring 100 runs. I don't see it. I think that's really high. On the flip side, you're also reading that he is not a good defender. He is. And I'm going to tell you.
Oh, you don't say.
I'm going to tell you.
Well, thankfully he's going to play 81 of his games in a park that's notoriously as vanilla as you can get with all the angles. So nothing to worry about there.
If this guy is struggling with the carom off the Green Monster, man, it's going to be a long April. We both know how Boston
then they're going to move into right field, and you're going to watch him turn singles into triples around the right field line.
Oh God, they'll never They'll never push him over to right. I mean, they're trying to hide him in left field. So that's interesting. Lastly, and I'm really curious for your take on this, and I want to give full credit to John Tomasi from NBC Sports Boston. He wrote an article, I think it was yesterday.
As much as it pains us to do that, yeah.
He made a really interesting point that put a whole different shade on the rose-colored glasses for the Red Sox this season. And he's not a rose-colored glasses kind of guy when it comes to the Red Sox.
No.
But he said, he said, here's what could potentially be the biggest X factor for the Sox getting back to the postseason: the schedule. The schedule is really wonky. What MLB did. So every team plays every team this year. It has to.
Right.
We are going to play San Diego, Pittsburgh Pirates, Tampa Bay Rays. We're going to play every single team at least once. And what that does is it really chops down your division schedule.
Yeah.
This is
which the Sox could use. The Sox could use less divisional games.
Let me ask you this. I couldn't believe this. Do you know how many games we won against the Blue Jays last season?
3.
You must have read the article. You're spot.
I did not. I actually did not. I think I remember something. It was considering what their divisional record was in general last year, which was disgusting.
We beat Toronto 3 times. That is unheard of. And so Tomasi just brought up.
For anyone who needs to know, that's 3 out of 19. That's a 19-game schedule per team in the division. So 3-16 against Toronto.
Right. So listen, right? It's not only about not having to face Toronto, New York, Tampa 19 times a season. It's also, on the flip side, oh, by the way, now you get to play the Pirates a few more times. Now you get to play the Nationals a few more times. And so it really came across as if Tomasi was projecting nearly a 10-game swing for the Sox in the standings, which is phenomenal.
I do think it's going to lend to, at least this year, it's going to lend to potentially could lend to a little more parity, not just for the Sox, but in general across the board because of that even schedule for all teams across both leagues. I'm not, while I'm okay with knocking down some of that emphasis or that weight into the divisional schedule, 19 games per team is a lot.
Yep.
This feels a little much. I'm not sure how I feel about this, where you're playing everybody at least once all year. I do like there being still the weight going towards the league schedule in the AL and the NL.
Sure.
But we'll see. I mean, that could change. I mean, it was weird back when they changed the schedule years back when we started playing with interleague play, playing everyone in a division on the other side, and that division would just rotate. So that is interesting. But it's actually a valid point. I actually agree somewhat that could help them falsely fall into a few extra wins because they play some more bad teams that they wouldn't have normally. All right. So yeah, we'll touch on the Sox a little more either next or the show after. We'll go ahead and do it. We're going to do a full preview on that since we're still a little early in February here. But pitchers and catchers next week, and hopefully spring comes around very quickly after that. All right, NFL, Patriots, news, a bunch of stuff has happened the last couple of weeks here. First and foremost, I don't know if you heard, but a certain older quarterback decided he's going to hang him up. He's calling it quits. I'm going to go to Canton. Do you know who that is?
Roger Staubach.
Roger Staubach, close. It was George Blanda. Also, Tom Brady. Tom Brady retired as well. So Tom Brady retires again, for real this time, with yet another. If you watch it at first, seems like a really nice post on the beach.
Yeah.
Some tears at the end, etc. Only to find out it was recorded maybe a couple of days earlier and strategically released to fall in line with the release of 80 for Brady.
That's terrible.
So if you haven't gone to see 80 for Brady in the theaters, make sure you absolutely do not because it looks awful. Go ahead.
So we can't just blow by it that quickly. I didn't know that about the video being a couple days recorded in advance, and it does coincide with this terrible movie that's coming out. I don't know what's worse, some of the actresses or Gronkowski.
Well, as much as I love to see Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin together again since 9 to 5.
Working 9 to 5.
Sequel hasn't come out yet. I mean, it's still sort of cringeworthy, for being real.
Oh, I just can't stand that Gronkowski is, splashed, throughout the movie.
I'm sick of Gronkowski everywhere.
It's too much.
I'm sick of him everywhere. It's too much Gronk everywhere at this point.
But right. So back to Brady really quickly.
Yeah.
This is, it's nearly Shakespearean. I don't understand it. The man loses his wife and family, in a sense. I mean, he still has his kids.
No, right.
Sees his kids.
He's not with them anymore. Yeah.
For one last go of it with what were they 8 and 9? The Bucks, were they 9 and 8? And they were destroyed in the
it's still in the division, but yeah, right. Right. By Dallas, right.
And he hangs them up. Now, listen, I wasn't advocating for the guy to stick around, but if you're going to give up all of that, it's just sad to watch. This is a car wreck that you're watching in slow motion, and it's like the wheels finally turned all at the same time at the end of the season, where Brady said, "Oh my God, what did I do?" And maybe he's holding out hope that he can repair things, and maybe he can. It does happen. But my goodness, it's mind-boggling, his decision making throughout the last 12 months. It's really strange.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Also, just a quick plug: we did cover about a year ago when Brady retired the first time. We actually devoted much more of our show to that and did a top 5 Brady moments from each side. We'll actually link to that in our description. I know we posted about that over the past week on social as well. But that was actually a good episode. I would definitely say go check that one out. I do believe this is it. I can't imagine he's coming back after this. This feels real this time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it also resets the quarterback market, if you will, in the NFL, because now that you have him out of the mix, and that speculation about would he go to Vegas or San Fran or anywhere else, you pull him out, and now I think that really changes the landscape of free agency and trade market, et cetera, for quarterbacks in the league, which we'll also talk about in a future show as well once we get probably close to draft season, et cetera. So, Tom Brady, Vaya con Dios, thank you for everything. Old friend Brian Flores, who was with Pittsburgh as a defensive assistant this past season, and he's been involved in a lot of things in the last couple of years, was hired as the Vikings defensive coordinator. So that was pretty cool. Good to see that.
Yep.
Sean Payton, who we've talked about as well in the past, was hired as the Broncos head coach after they gave up a first rounder in something for him to the Saints. So that's interesting that they brought in Sean Payton, but I believe the Broncos don't have a first or second round pick in this year's draft, and they don't even have a quarterback. So that's tough. But they'll figure it out. The coach comes above all else, right? AJ Green, retires after 11 seasons, 9 with Cincinnati and 2 with Arizona. Pro Bowler for his first 7 seasons in the league. Finishes his career 727 receptions, 10,514 yards, 70 touchdowns. For any of you out there who are big fantasy football aficionados, you'll know AJ Green was essentially regarded as a top 5 wide receiver at his peak from like 2012, 2015. Monster early on before he started having some injury issues and then ended up taking off Cincinnati, finishing in Arizona. But AJ Green retires as well. You had the Pro Bowl games take place last weekend as well. The Patriots' only Pro Bowler was Matthew Judon, who finished the season with 14.5 sacks. Did not have the slowdown he did last year. 14.5 sacks, 26 QB hits, 12 tackles for loss. It is somewhat disappointing that he was the only Patriots representative at the Pro Bowl games. But it was kind of a joke anyway. Friend of yours, maybe not a friend of yours, somebody you're big on, Joe Judge, has been reassigned, will be staying on the Patriots staff. He's been reassigned. They have not specified, I don't believe yet, where he's been reassigned to. I know you've been really been pushing to get him back to special teams, where he was very successful for a few seasons. Side note, you can read Back Bay Sports Nation on Substack by Sundance, has a whole brain dump about Joe Judge in this scenario. Make sure you go check that out. Matt Patricia, TBD. Not sure what's going on with Matt. A lot of options there. Matt Patricia has a man with options, and he's not going to rush through them. Okay, he can stay, be reassigned somewhere else besides offense. Apparently, he could become a defensive coordinator somewhere else because that's out there. I'm not sure how much I buy that, but supposedly that's out there as well. Or he could take a break from football and take a year off and hang out with family. I think it might be time for Matt to take a break. I think it's time for Matt Patricia to take a break. I feel like he's been here twice now. I don't know how, after what happened this season, because he ended up being the face of the coordinator situation on offense, the way he was just, ragdolled around by the media and rightfully so. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you come back from that and stay with the team in a new role. It just seems like it's best for both parties to thank you, moving on. Have a nice life.
Absolutely.
That's my opinion. Yeah, I just don't see that being a good. I'm actually somewhat surprised based on the stuff that's come out about Joe Judge and the way he was dressed down by Belichick in meetings and stuff over the last year. I'm actually somewhat surprised he's staying. But again, if that's the case, it gives me hope that it's because of what you've alluded to before. he's going back to special teams where he's proven himself in the past.
Yep.
And if we know we can use him there, let's just do that and see how it works out again, right? I mean, again, check out Back Bay Sports Nation. Sundance wrote about this, about the special teams performance or lack thereof the last couple of years, what Joe Judge could bring back to that. We'll link to that in the description as well. Rams, Sundance hiring Nick Caley as their tight ends coach, which I always find it interesting. Let me know what you think about this. I always find it interesting when a guy leaves a team as a position coach or a coach at some level and goes to another team for the same position as opposed to a promotion. And I get that there's times where guys will do that to prove they can do it again somewhere else as well. That it's not a function of, the team, the environment. Like Eric Bieniemy, for instance, who's the offensive coordinator and has been with the Chiefs, who's been lobbied as a head coaching candidate for the last 5 years or so now. And that talk had died down drastically this offseason, is in line or is talking about potentially going and taking the OC job in Baltimore, basically just to not reinvent himself, to prove himself again that he's not simply just an Andy Reid disciple, and he's not the benefactor of having Pat Mahomes throwing the ball in that great offense. So really, Nick Caley, it seems a little odd that he's leaving to go to another team on the other side of the country at the same position, which makes me wonder if that's more about get me out of here, I'm all set with this place, than anything else.
Definitely. It has to be, right? Because, listen, I think Nick Caley is beating Matt Patricia to the punch. You look at the scenery in New England, and there's no path upward with Bill O'Brien coming back to be the OC. So, Caley's aspirations absolutely are to move up to an OC and then eventually a head coach. One would think, that's the natural progression. Bill O'Brien comes back, you're not moving up anytime soon. And so I think he made the right move getting out of New England. He was mentioned potentially as a candidate to take over the offense. Never happened. And then they bring in somebody else who's very established. For me, that's the writings on the wall. If I'm going to grow, I got to get out of here. And so my hat's actually off to Nick Caley. I think he did the right thing. I don't necessarily think San Diego is a better organization or the talent is going to be better over there. But I think Caley did what Matt Patricia.
Either way.
The Rams, I'm sorry. But even so, the Rams.
It's fine. Yeah.
Good luck. Matt Stafford's done. So, at least that's the way I see it. So I think it was the right move. Curiously, my question for you on the Patriots is, where do you ballpark Jacoby Myers coming back to New England? Because Myers is being hailed as the top wideout on the market coming off season.
The wideout market this year is thin, which buoys him up to the top, but nonetheless, it is what it is. I do think this team, again, rose-colored glasses, optimism, whatever. I do think this team, given the situation they're in with that wide receiver core, doesn't have much of a choice to pony up and pay the man, and they can make that money up in cuts. Plenty of cuts are available there. Otherwise, pay the guy the one set of true hands you have right now, as much as they are, and deal with it somewhere else. I would still end up being shocked if he ended up being somewhere else. I do think this team makes it a point to resign him.
Yeah,
and they should.
If the stars align for the Patriots, I think you're right on. They should pay him. He's been the safety valve for Mac Jones both years. And somehow Belichick, the GM, is going to have to swing a trade for a guy like T. Higgins. Listen, I love Jacoby Myers.
Well,
he's not an elite wide.
I think Higgins is a free agent.
He's 1 year away. But
he could be
but Cincinnati doesn't have the financial wherewithal to keep him, Burrow, and Chase.
Agree. And I think that's what would make a trade for him palatable in terms of what you have to give up to get him. Then it's like, all right, are you willing to pay him? Because if you're going to do that, you're going to sign to a massive extension right after that trade as well.
Yep.
But Higgins is an amazing talent, so I would love to see them go and do something like that because Mac Jones needs. We talk about Myers, but I mean Myers is dependable, safe, etc. Higgins is just a stud. He's a downfield playmaker. Yeah. He can make plays at all levels. So that would be fantastic. But one more note on that, and this just happened today, this afternoon, Thursday. Malcolm Butler apparently made a comment this afternoon on 98.5.
Yep.
There may be a quote documentary forthcoming covering the situation regarding his benching Super Bowl 52 against Philadelphia, and like Matt Patricia and all that stuff. Take it with a grain of salt. It could just be him throwing out. It could be one of those unofficial random things you see on Instagram or something. Who knows?
No, I read he's also got a book coming out that's gonna talk about it too,
which is interesting because I think we always made the assumption that there was a hush hush deal made somewhere along the lines. And that's why everyone's been so ambiguous about that story, officially on the record for years now, as far as what happened, with that benching. And you think if there's been plenty of opportunities for Butler to talk about that, and he's always kind of just laid well with it, maybe a wink occasionally, and it's odd that it's almost like maybe there was a limitation on the NDA that Bill Belichick made him sign, and now that non-disclosure agreement is going to be void soon or expired. Now he's had this book queued up and anything else, and he's going to go to town and get paid just based on doing media appearances talking about this benching. I just thought it was interesting how that came out today, and we're all going to be waiting to see what that story is because I think we want to know really what happened, if the speculation is true or whatever. So that was an interesting note. But, all right, let's get off the Pats. Again, this is Super Bowl week, Sunday. So we got a big game this weekend. Kansas City, Philadelphia, in Glendale, Arizona. Although, as you mentioned earlier, one of the least attractive Super Bowl games that you could think of to actually partake in. Nonetheless, Philadelphia, right now the line is Philly giving 1.5, which is essentially nothing in the Super Bowl game. Over-under is 51. Number of injuries, a lot of stuff coming into this game. I mean, media coverage is everywhere on this. It's not like we're breaking news on any of this, but we're still going to just run over it. I think the biggest note on it is Patrick Mahomes' ankle. He did have that, what ended up being a high ankle sprain a few weeks back, and then played on it in the AFC Championship game. Obviously played fairly well because he got led into the Super Bowl, but he's been full go in practice from all accounts. KC's receivers got dinged up as well in the AFC Championship. Juju with a knee. I think Kadarius Toney knocked up his hamstring. Kadarius Toney, and again, anyone who is a fantasy football aficionado knows Kadarius Toney is the ultimate tease. Going back to when he had a couple of games with the Giants where he blew up, and now everyone has been waiting, and he just wants to keep getting hurt. He's kind of like the Kanye of football in a way when it comes to that. It's just a big tease. But Mecole Hardman, who had come back from being had an injured abdomen, groin, something going back to the middle of the season, he's done. Got IR'd going into this game as well. So all these guys, other than Hardman, are supposedly full practice today on Thursday, but just because you're full practice doesn't mean you're actually 100% healthy. It's going to be interesting to see how this passing attack functions on between Mahomes' ankle and the receivers kind of being gimpy all over the field. Could mean a lot of Travis Kelce. Jerick McKinnon, who really emerged towards the end of the season in the backfield, also full practice today as well. He could play into this. Isaiah Checo could play into this a lot as far as the running backs go. What do you think about so we'll start with the Chiefs then, because we'll talk about that right now. What are your thoughts in general on the Chiefs going into this game? The offense, Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes at this point is looking to get mean, everyone's talking about he's looking to get another MVP award in the Super Bowl. Like he's setting all kinds of youth records at this point. As many people, well, maybe not forget about Brady, but anyone who wants to move on to the next greatest thing, it's Mahomes at this point. I don't know. The ankle worries me a little bit in this game.
Yeah, I almost want to experience a high ankle sprain because, right, like we've all sprained our ankle.
We can arrange that. We can arrange that actually. So
we've all here's
the next Blitzkrieg Pro Wrestling event. We could actually make sure we get up in there, and that's gonna be actually pretty cheap. So noted.
Listen, we've all had an ankle sprain playing pickup basketball, walking down the stairs. At my age, just getting out of bed, you can sprain your ankle really easily, right? But you bounce back from even a bad ankle sprain. You bounce back from it within 2 to 3 days. The first day or two, it's really sore and tender. Day 3, you're kind of like, wow, I'm kind of back to normal. Day 4, you're walking on it like nothing happened. High ankle sprains, they describe them as just lingering, excruciating pain. You can't do anything with it. You can't play a professional sport. We look at Marcus Smart. The guy's been out with high ankle sprains his whole career. Mahomes is special. So Mahomes has dealt with this for a little while. I expect that Kansas City will be okay on that front. I don't see his ankle playing a huge factor in the game. So for Kansas City, to your point, it's going to be Travis Kelce, Orama. I mean, they're going to be looking for him constantly. Right. I don't know how you don't go into a game as a D coordinator and say, that guy's not going to beat us. We're going to put 3 guys on him. Kelce gets open somehow. I don't know how. But, right. McKinnon, nice player. McKenzie, nice player. These guys come up when you're just not really expecting them to. So I don't.
Yeah, do you think they have to rely on the backfield a little more? I think the running backs are going to have to play a part in this between the injuries and the receiving core. And I just also think here's the thing: the defensive line, from Philadelphia is also staunch.
It's so,
if you will.
Oh my!
So when you have that type of front in a pass rush on, what's perceived to be a gimpy quarterback. I mean, that could wreak havoc. If you're going to make Mahomes move around in the pocket, roll out, something that he's normally very good at. But on a bad issue, granted, he's had a couple weeks on the ankle. I'm sure plenty of treatment that you and I would never get if we rolled out of bed and twisted our ankle or had a high ankle sprain. We wouldn't get the kind of treatment, hyperbaric chamber, all kinds of stuff.
Well, I have United Healthcare, so I speak for yourself.
That's a plug right there. We'll make sure we tag United Healthcare in all these posts, and I have no doubt they will respond with. Don't wait. Sundance's insurance premiums have just been waived for 2023, folks. So if we get anything out of this, thank you for that, United Healthcare.
Take the PPO.
So that's probably, I think it's at UHC. We'll check it out though. So beyond that, you and I. Spraining our ankles is not good for mobility. Pat Mahomes can still get it. He actually showed with a scramble to seal that game on the AFC Championship, which is actually a prop bet I want to look at some point is rushing yards on Mahomes. I do believe that total is going to be pretty low because of the ankle. I think he can sneak it and still take it. But
yeah, it's Mahomes. Who's the 49ers receiver that came out this week and said, take everything in your 401k and bet it on Patrick Mahomes. Like, that dude does not lose in big games.
It's either DL or Ayuk.
It was Ayuk. I think it was
yeah.
Ayuk.
It was Ayuk. Yeah. Ayuk, who also, but it was the same guy who continues to complain about the 49ers losing with all this talent that they should have been there. And he said, well, you know what? You're not.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah. So
move on. Okay. Anyway,
what do you got for the Eagles? What are the big issues, on that side of the ball? Because
you still have Hurts with the shoulder.
Yep.
Like Dr. Gary pointed out on the last show, I mean, that potential was an AC joint or whatever, grade 2 AC. I mean, that's still potentially a thing. No one really knows. You've got, I think that's the main. Lane Johnson at tackle. We talked about it before. He had an adductor tear going back a month, 5-6 weeks ago. He came back playing through in the playoffs, and can he get through playing on this? He could be fine for the entire game. It's a pain tolerance thing. It can't get worse. Well, he's had 2 weeks off of that. That probably helps. I don't think Kansas City's pass rush. It's okay at times. Chris Jones up the middle. That's their main weapon. I know there's some guys on the outside. They're loading me right now, but they don't have an overwhelming rush by any means. Their defense in general started to also tail off as the year went on, secondary and stuff.
Yep.
Jerry Sneed, who kind of made a name for himself this year as a stud. He's actually limited with a knee injury in practice this week as well, so that could play a factor. I think it's going to be a ground game because we saw ever since Hurts got hurt. The team morphed more to the run game, and that's what this team's been about for the last couple of years. The Eagles is they can beat you multiple ways. They can beat you with a great receiving core, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, or they can just run it up down your throat between Miles Sanders, who has had an incredible year this year with the touchdowns, especially out of Penn State. Then you got Kenneth Gainwell, who's come on the last few weeks. You got Boston Scott, who's a nice third back. And then Hurts can run the ball himself. He's essentially a running back when he takes the snap. So I do think, while it hasn't been obvious that they haven't come out and said it, they've been hiding Hurts a little bit with the shoulder, protecting him rather, in the passing game by just saying, well, if we can run the ball, why don't we? And that's what they've been doing, and there's been no reason to deviate from that. The only thing I'm curious about is I think that'll be the attempt to start the game. But if Kansas City and Greg, Philadelphia's off a defense is very good. It was overshadowed a little bit by San Francisco, but Philly's defense is very good in its own right. If Mahomes, Kelsey, etc. can do some work on offense, impress Philly to have to keep up with points, which we've seen Kansas City do, and force Philly and Hurts to throw the ball, what does that look like when Hurts is forced to throw the ball more than 20 times? I think he threw the ball 20 times in that game against San Francisco, give or take in the NFC Championship. You force him to have to throw the ball 30, 35 times? What does that look like? Probably short passing game, which is where AJ Brown exceeds. Crossers over the middle, etc. But you're still looking at more volume, more potential for re-injury, for taking sacks, for all that stuff. So I think if Kansas City can force Philly to have to throw more and not rely on the run game to protect Hurts, I think Philly could be in trouble. Which actually leads me into, is we're coming up a little bit here, predictions. Let's get right to predictions here. It leads me to, I'll get by right now. I am actually, this is a tough one for me, but Philly's giving 1.5. That could change to 2. They could change it down to 1. It's been a really weird line all week with this because it's like a dead line for the Super Bowl. I think Kansas City actually wins this game. I think Mahomes. It's chalk, and I know it, but I think Kansas City wins this outright. I think the total is over 51 right now. Over under is 51. I think the total goes over because I do see in the second half a little bit of a push, but I'm just going to take Kansas City to win, cover. Well, they're going to cover, obviously, over on the 51, and Mahomes takes another MVP trophy.
Okay. Wow. I'm with you on the over 51, but we disagree on this outcome. This is going to be Philly's game. I got Philly by 10, 35-25. Right. I think that Philly will actually have the game in hand early in the fourth quarter. Early in the fourth quarter, I think this game will already be decided. I don't like Kansas City's defense. Philly's defense on the other side is underrated. It's not fair because everybody knows how good they are, but there's not a lot of big names on that Philly defense. But my God, they get after the quarterback. Philly's just steamrolled right to this point. Kansas City looks human at times. Pat Mahomes looks human at times. He does come through, when he's got to have it. As Coach Belichick says, when you got to have it, he typically gets it. He typically does. I don't think so in this game. And it pains me to say that because I can't stand Nick Sirianni. I normally like guys.
Really?
Normally like guys like that. I like guys with the swagger. He's just way over the top obnoxious, and I am not an Andy Reid fan. But I think Sirianni
well documented.
I think Sirianni undresses Andy Reid in this game, and Hurts will be the MVP. I got Philly 35-25.
All right, so that's the next little segue because I want to see what the odds are running on DraftKings Sportsbook for MVP honors. All right, for Super Bowl 57 MVP right now, Pat Mahomes is obviously the quarterbacks are always going to lead that. Mahomes is a plus 120, Hurts is a plus 125. So take your pick there. So either way, we're the thing is the QB is by default has a leg up on the rest of the offense, or the teams in general, as far as for getting MVP awards. So the next closest after those two is Travis Kelce at plus 1,200. AJ Brown 1,800, Miles Sanders 2,200. So clearly, either Mahomes or Hurts are winning the MVP award, most likely, depending on which team wins the game. So, and I'd love to be wrong about this. I actually am rooting for the Eagles to win this game if I have to root for a team, because I'm kind of all set with the Chiefs' dominance in the AFC already. I don't mind Andy Reid as much as like you hate him. I don't mind him, but I get it. The mustache itself looks a little crusty, and that bothers me. That's an OCD problem, though. And I just get tired of the same people over and over again in general. So we'll see. All right, so let's get into that. Wraps up Super Bowl week. We'll see how that shakes out. So as we alluded to at the beginning of the show, Valentine's Day is also around the corner. All right, and that's a time to show the people you love that you care, and it's a made-up holiday, but nonetheless, it's that day.
But you digress.
When you put it that way, it's true. But this one's really made up. It's really just to make money and all, whatever. But we still have to acknowledge it. Shout out Roman Reigns. So we thought it would be fun to, in honor of that holiday of Valentine's being around the corner, we're going to have a special Love It or Shove It segment, which essentially is we're going to take a mishmash of all things that are happening in sports, outside of sports, fiction, all kinds of stuff. We're going to throw it out there, and it's going to be a love it or shove it. Like, are you buying it? Yeah. Are you not buying it? Screw it, right? So I'm going to start, maybe not rapid fire, but I'm going to throw them out there, and you just hit them. Just hit them. First thought, what do you think? Give me an opinion. I want to hear about it. So it's like hot take season, but with a red heart on it, right? And Cupid shooting an arrow through it. So let's start it up. Sundance, love it or shove it. First one. In the pantheon of alpha tight ends in NFL history, Travis Kelce over Rob Gronkowski. Love it or shove it.
Oh, shove that. Yeah, shove that way down the drain. Now, listen, I can't stand marketing Rob Gronkowski, Subway commercial dude, right. Rob Gronkowski, USAA, Rob Gronkowski. But on the football field, on the gridiron, I want Gronk all day, every day. He comes up so big. But I'm biased. I get that. That's fine.
Sure.
I'll take that.
So you're shoving.
I'm going to shove it.
Shove it up your butt.
No kill. All right. Next one. Tom Brady signs a one-day contract to retire a Patriot. Love it or shove it.
I'm going to love it. mildly. This is kind of what people do nowadays.
So you're gonna like it.
You're
gonna like it with the heart.
Listen,
Yeah.
whatever.
Maybe a buck.
I'm gonna throw a couple of the little, heart candies at it with the little sayings on them.
Like the Necco ones.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, those aren't too tasty. So I guess.
Listen, here's the thing. Brady left and should not have, and it's not his fault. Kraft and Belichick looked at him and said, "I think we're all set, Tom. I think we're going to move on." And that was clearly a mistake to not re-sign him and surround him with some talent. So to have him come back, it just feels too soon. I'd probably feel a little bit differently in like 3 or 4 years, but I understand. Yeah, that's not the way this works. He's going to sign his one-day contract with the Patriots probably next month and retire. Mildly love it. Listen, I want him to retire. I want him to retire a Patriot, not a Tampa Bay Buccaneer.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair. All right, next up, Red Sox 2023, and we'll get into this again as we alluded to before in our season preview down the road. But a little preview here: Sox contend for a wild card spot into the month of September. Love it or shove it.
Love it. They are going to have, if you're asking me, I think they've got a top 5 bullpen. I don't mind saying that. I think that their defense is going to be average, and I think that their offense is going to be a little bit above average, and that'll get you into wild card contention, which pretty much 3/4 of the league is in come early September. So I'll love it based on that alone.
All right, I'm with you on that one. I love that as well. I do think the Sox will surprise just enough. And again, Sox are going to screw themselves into a few extra wins just by virtue of the schedule. Thank you. Shout out John Tomasi. All right, next up. Best scene in the show The Office is when Kevin drops the chili. Love it or shove it, Sundance.
At least once a year, I like to bring in some of my Kevin's famous chili. Everybody is going to get to know each other in the pot. I'm serious about this stuff. I'm up the night before, pressing garlic and dicing whole tomatoes.
There are so many.
There's a lot of scenes in The Office.
Oh,
there is.
This is a really tough one. I'm going to love it based off of blind consumption, if that's a term, only because I don't know that scene.
Of the chili?
Yeah, I don't know that scene. And so I just have to endorse it based on, there really wasn't a bad Office episode ever. They were all great. So
we can take a pause. We can take a pause here, and you can look it up on YouTube right now.
I'll do it later, but I'll take your word for it.
Okay, fair enough. I love that one, by the way. That's why I picked it. All right, next up, Kike Hernandez is the first Red Sox player since Babe Ruth to homer as both a pitcher and a position player. Love it or shove it, Sundance.
These are really good. You did put some time and effort into these. So that's really creative. I am going to love the crap out of that one because you're right. The starting pitching is going to be pretty terrible. And Kike's probably going to have to throw some pitches out there. And so
when he's healthy, this is during the time that he's going to actually be on the field.
Yeah. I still can't believe they're going into the season with Kike and Christian Arroyo as their middle infield starters.
Someone will emerge in spring training. Don't worry. There's an ace up the sleeve.
I'm gonna love this one though.
You gonna love it?
I do. I have visions of Kike on the mound.
All right. I mean, I can't disagree. Again, that's why I came up with that. I'm assuming he's doing a few pitches this year, and hopefully he doesn't blow on his arm like Jose Canseco did on the Fenway now. All right, next up, Sean Payton, newly hired head coach of the Broncos, we mentioned earlier, gets the Broncos back to the playoffs his first season as head coach in 2023. Love it or shove it. Okay, because you're shoving it.
I'm going to shove that, then I'm going to flush that, and then I'm going to wipe that.
Shove it up your butt.
It's not.
You should wipe first, actually. Yeah. I would be wiping before you flush it.
Goodbye draft.
Nonetheless.
Goodbye draft picks. Russell Wilson. That team is not getting back to the playoffs anytime soon. I was shocked that Peyton chose the Broncos, and so I will shove that.
Well, they would have you think they chose him. But yes.
Yeah. Good luck with
Shove
that,
it.
Sean. Have fun getting
All right.
the team back to the playoffs. Don't see it.
All right, so that's new comedy, a period piece, if you will, taking place in the 1980s. Movie that's coming out next month. Cocaine Bear, Sundance. Love it or shove it.
Love it. Okay, so as an enthusiast for any type of wild bear movies, because The Edge is one of my all-time
This is
favorites. You know this.
You caught it. You caught the connection. Fantastic.
And then go 15 years earlier than The Edge, and you have the movie, I believe, called The Bear, which might have been a Disney production, but it's a really sweet film. I love this one. Cocaine Bear looks absolutely insane. One of Ray Liotta's final films before his untimely passing.
R.I.P. Ray Liotta.
This looks
Yeah.
great. I
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's
and
unfortunate.
this to me is an in the theater film that I would drag my wife to, and she's not gonna really like it. But I can get her there because of the popcorn and the soda and all that stuff.
Or it could be a Padres movie review.
Oh, this is true.
Something
Now,
to think about.
look, you just
Something
got her
to think
off
about.
You just got her off the hook. It's already that's a done deal. So she's in the other room.
All right,
now.
folks, look out for a Cocaine Bear movie review, our first movie review on the show in a coming episode. Fantastic. All right, next up, Patriots. Go back to the Patriots. All right, use a first rounder on a wide receiver in this year's 2023 draft. Love it or shove it.
Shove it.
And shove it up your butt.
Bill Belichick does not have good draft instincts when it comes to wide receivers, and this would mean that we bring back Jacoby Myers on an expensive deal. Don't explore a trade for an elite wideout like a T. Higgins. So I'm going to shove that. I know I can't think of the kid's name, but the Boston College wideout, he's really highly rated. He may even be top of the second round, but he could get to the bottom of the first. I don't want a wide receiver. I'm sorry, not in the draft.
No, you know what? I think we and Bill Belichick still have nightmares about Chad Jackson. So I agree with that. I'm going to shove that all day.
N'Keal
next
Harry. Can't forget
Ever
that.
say that name again on the show. All right, we're going to soften it up a little bit. All right, so Nancy, strawberries and champagne. Love it or shove it?
So,
This
I must
expanded answer.
I must say that my wife does such a great job hosting any type of events here at the house, and she typically at the holidays will have champagne for mimosas, and certainly there's the strawberries and the oranges. I'm gonna love that. That's a good combination. It also brings to mind. I don't know why, but the Harry Styles hit Watermelon Sugar High.
Watermelon sugar.
Watermelon Sugar. I had it high. Fantastic song. It's in my playlist. I enjoy some Harry Styles every now and then. You're laughing. I don't understand. Harry Styles is pretty talented.
He's my jam.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't have his posters on the wall yet, but I enjoy some Harry Styles.
Because we're at a different angle on your camera. That's why.
There you go.
Okay, so
Well,
we're
I
going to
love
love it. We're
that.
going to love strawberries and champagne. All right, so that's actually a great segue to the next one on the list. Taylor Swift's newest album, Midnights. Love it or shove it, Sundance.
Oh, I have to decline. I have not heard T Swift's newest album. I am a little bit behind on the music. I also have to download the new Lil Yachty album. I don't know if you downloaded that one yet.
Little Yachty.
Yeah.
I've not
Here's the thing.
gotten to that one.
Here's the thing. My 20-year-old son and my wife and my 16-year-old son have all endorsed this album and have said it is a musical maestro. And so I'm going to have to download that one as well with Taylor Swift. So I will politely pass on this one.
Okay, I'll answer for you. It's an absolute love it.
Really? Okay.
But Liliati, Liliati is going to have to make the rotation for the gym as well. So I appreciate you mentioning that. All right, last couple here. Sundance, red velvet cake. Love it or shove it?
This is really clairvoyant on your part because my youngest son celebrated his 16th birthday, and we just this evening, because we have a big family and only get people all in the same room tonight, celebrated his birthday with red velvet cupcakes. That's his favorite. In honor of my youngest son, I still would shove it. I'm not
shove
a
it up your butt.
fan. So, Patrick, enjoy that all by yourself.
No,
Shout
out Pat Costa.
I'm
birthday still gave your dad tummy aches. All right.
More of a German chocolate guy myself. So.
Fair enough. All right. Well, then that leads us into our last one then. Sundance, red velvet cake flavored ice cream. Love it or shove it?
You know what? I enjoy sampling all different types of ice cream. I'd still shove that in the toilet. It's red velvet.
And shove it up your butt.
All right. We'll go ahead and make sure we tag Harold's Ice Cream in Northampton on this as well, because they would not be happy to hear that. All right, that wraps it up. Our first Love It and Shove It. Fantastic stuff. That's going to kind of wrap up the show here. Before we go, didn't get to it earlier, but reminder, if you're watching us on YouTube, etc., subscribe, notifications, all that stuff, click the bell. If you're listening to us in audio, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, we're available, Amazon, all that stuff. Anywhere you get your podcasts, we are there. If you're listening to us, please rate and review. Make sure you're following us on social. We try to be active. We got to get better about it. Nonetheless, it's 2 Podres Pod on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Dos Padres Podcast on Facebook, all part of the Western Mass Hartford Night Takeover. One follower at a time, because that's basically the pace we are at so far this year. We expect an uptick with the warmer weather, though, so get on board regardless. All right, we're going to be back here in a couple weeks. Maybe a Pats season recap, figure it out. We got the Sox. Maybe do a preview there. We'll figure it out. We don't know. Come back and check it out regardless. We're keeping it a mystery. Sundance Kid. Major J. Hasta tus sueños. Until next time, we are out.